to Representative Stephanie T. Bolden
Thank
for
you.
final remarks and phone numbers.
Thank you very much. Once again, I am a native Wilmingtonian. I grew up where I live and where I still live today. My campaign headquarters are 610 East 11th Street, and my phone number is 302-428-1269. The same number that I give out all the time for people to call me personally at home. This particular election is not about who is in where or what party. It's about your dedication and your commitment to the people in which you serve. This is not our seat, and I never talk about it as being my district. This district is one that's the entire state of Delaware, and in order for us to get things done, we need you also to come out to your civic association meetings, to be a part of the process and learn the process. Don't just listen to people that are telling you what this process is, because they don't. And I always say, which was a saying, that when we had a meeting, we had our own little organization, and we're at Senator Henry's house, and Reverend Al Sharpton was there, and Representative Hazel Plant was there, and she made the statement that some people will sell their soul for an orange soda and a piece of pie. Don't let that be you. And so really, you know me, you know everybody here, so I'm asking again for your vote on November 4th. And if you'd like a sign, please call 428-1269, or you know where I live, and come by anytime. So thank you, and may God continue to bless you. Thank you.
Okay, folks, as we move to the close of the first half of the program, I want to get a couple things out of the way. Number one, you call everybody you know, put the word around, send a carrier pigeon, get the word out, send up a smoke signal. I got some folks that are going to be on with me tonight on Community Crossfire, 9 to 10. It's going to be a very interesting program. That's tonight at 9 to 10. So you put that word around. I'm not going to tell you who they are. Mum is the word. Nobody knows. Nobody knows it but me, way the old song goes. Let me say also that I have, Keisha, make sure that I'm okay to get ready to take this break and go out. I want to do Jay Caldwell and the Gospel Ambassadors and bring my other two guests in the green room as I take this break. But let me just say to you, my friends that are sitting out there on the other side of this TV camera, that I come here today and I bring these beautiful women in because I know them, I know of them, I know of their leadership, and I wholeheartedly endorse them and stand by them as I ask you to go forward, talk to your family, friends, and neighbors in the districts for which they're running, and I ask you to please give them your support, your vote, and talk to anybody that you can and ask them to please join us in doing that. Differently, I guess, than some of the others, there are times when I just have to dig my heels in and put on my partisan Democrat clothes and get on out there and do what I think needs to be done. And such is the case as we're approaching this 2014 general election. There are some issues that are being talked about on the TV, the first and third Sunday on Charlie Copeland's show, who's the national chairman of the Republican Party, and some things that are being said that are taken totally out of context, and some of those things are totally untrue. I'm not going to sit here. I've been on this cable since Channel 2 when Rollins first started cable, when it was $5 a pop, and you could get cable for a whole month. And every time I come into your homes, I tell you that I don't come here for fame or fashion. I come here to tell the truth and try to educate people that are out on the other side of this TV camera. And that's not just African American people, it's everybody that gets to view and to hear us. And there's a lot of things that are being said about members of the Democratic Party that are not true. And to want to attack or assassinate the character of people that have been in office with some longevity over the years, as if they're not doing anything, they're just sitting there as a bump on the log. These folks that I'm bringing before you that I say I'm supporting here tonight and others are persons that are working very, very hard. Let me deal with the issue that comes up a lot of times that people say, well, I don't ever see them in the community. Well, how in the heck can they be in the community and be in the meetings in down Dover working for you and on the committees and doing all the important things that they must do, and then every time you look around, they're sitting in a community meeting? They cannot do that. But you know they're your legislators. You know these folk. You know how to get in touch with them. If you don't, you ask somebody. You should. And many people that say that are people that don't even bother to vote. And that's sad. That's sad. So all I'm saying is this is the beginning of the 2014 general election. I have some major problems. Some of that I'll talk about tonight from 9 to 10. And the way some of these things are said, what bothers me, and Charlie Copeland's a good guy. He's a good guy. And we're somewhat friendly. But the point is, to sit on TV week in and week out over the last couple months and to go find people to run against these folks and whatnot and to misrepresent the truth bothers me. Go further than that. If you're sitting there and you're talking about people that really aren't doing anything in public office, and you don't just label the Democratic candidates all the time. Talk about some of them Republicans that aren't doing anything as well. So, that's where I'm at. You look at Barack Obama and what he's tried to get done in the White House, and you look at Boehner and the Republicans and the way they block everything. And let me just close on this, because I get filled up about it. And you're going to hear much more from me as I got a lot of TV time right on into the Sunday before the elections. I talk about seniority. And it is very, very important whether you realize it or not. That's the game that controls politics unwritten, is seniority. And the bottom line or proof positive of that is Harry Reid is the chairman, is the majority leader of the United States Senate because of his seniority. And he was selected there. Boehner was the next to move up to be Speaker of the House because of his seniority. And let's not forget that Republican rascal that is the one that made the comment that he was going to make Barack Obama a one-time president. And he's catching hell right now and look like he may not even get back. But if he is reelected with his partisan politics and how vicious he is, and I'm talking about Mitch McConnell, if he's reelected because of his seniority, he will be the next United States majority leader in the United States Senate if they happen to win the majority of our Senate. Seniority is very important. These folks have that. They're sitting there, and as a result of that, they have key committees, chairmanships, and committees that they're on. It's very, very, very important. Enough said on that. I want to go out and take my break. J. Cobb and the Gospel Ambassadors, all roads, the first Sunday in November lead to Ezon Fair Baptist Church under the leadership of our very good friend, the Reverend Christopher Carey. J. Caldwell and the Gospel Ambassadors. Check it out and be there or be square. Be right back. God bless.
Herman, you may want to.
Listen, if he has to reach Jesus will pick you up. If he has to reach. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jay Caldwell speaking, and I'm here to remind you of the big anniversary celebration of the Gospel Ambassadors. Sunday, November the 2nd, at the Ezon Fair Baptist Church, 1400 B Street, Wilmington, Delaware. Our pastor there is Dr. Christopher T. Curry. The doors will open at 5 p.m., program 6 p.m. sharp. Our special guests include this year the world famous Williams sisters of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, singing If He Has to Reach Way Down, Jesus Will Pick You Up. Again this year, the Southern Gospel Singers from Washington, D.C. And again this year also Carol and the New Anointed Stephen Singers from Jersey City, New Jersey. For the first time in our city, Sister Ella Wright and the Spiritual Voices from Bel Air, Maryland, and back again the fantastic Solinaires of New York City. Opening up our program will be Evangelist Serena Ford, our own Serena Ford from Wilmington, Delaware. Our MCs again this year, Brother George Witcher and Sister Marva Richardson of Channel 28 TV. Advance donation $20 at the door, $22. Seniors and children, $18 at the door only. For more information, call 654-7062 or 658-0278. 762-3249 or sepia cleaner 656-0700. Dinners will be served at the church. Again, we're going to take off some shoes at the Ezine Fair Baptist Church Sunday, November the 2nd. Meet us there.
Saw a bush burning not far away. Heard somebody calling their name. Sound like the voice coming from the flame. Shoes, Moses. Moses, take your shoes off. Shoes, Moses.
Okay, back for the second portion of the program. I hope you enjoyed the first part. And again, it's down to the wire now, and it's off and running to the races as it relates to the general elections, of which the Democrat and the Republicans are there running for the same seat. And even in some races, there is an independent candidate or two. But be it as it may, a lifelong Democrat and a Democrat that has even crossed over every so often to help a good member of the opposite party. The fact of the matter is, the way things are going down and for what's being talked about and the way the truth, in my opinion, is being distorted about Democrats who have been in office for a minute or whatever, and the fact that they have worked very, very hard. I feel they deserve re-election, and I ask you to seriously consider that and conduct yourself accordingly. No one can tell anybody how to vote. You have a right to support who you want, and God knows candidates have a right to run if they so want to offer themselves for public office. And those of us that feel that we want to support incumbents who've done a good job, then we have a right to do that, and others that do not have a right to do whatever they choose. Having said that, I want to go to our good friend in our community. I see him in community meetings all over the place. I call him up when I have issues at Kingcenter with clients and things where his help is needed, and he's always ready and willing to respond and do the very best that he can. He's no stranger to a lot of you out in TV land, and I'm talking about none other than Representative James J.J. Johnson. Representative Johnson, will you please share with our viewing audience some of the things that you've been involved in down Dover? You're on the Joint Finance Committee, legislation that you passed, you supported, and legislation you have created and gotten passed. And equally as important, will you share with them as it relates to, if you're blessed to be reelected to go back, what are some of the things you'd like to continue to do? Representative James Johnson.
Thank you, Herman. Thanks for having me here this evening. And thanks for having my good friend, Representative Gerald Brady, sitting beside me. And the thing about it, he and I sit together on a General Assembly floor, and then we've been sitting together for the last 8 years, and he supported me a lot. Some of the things I've been working on, Herman, one of my signature pieces of legislation that I was real proud of this year was the ban the box. We was able to get that passed. However, it wasn't passed in the form that I originally drafted the legislation. And when the final bill came through, I was only able to get ban the box for government entities, municipalities, as well as state, county, and et cetera. When they're hiring, they no longer will you see that box on your application asks you, do you have a criminal history? And I think this works well as far as addressing our concerns with recidivism. And I know you and you're, as executive director of the Kingcenter, have been trying to help people get a job. And one of their drawbacks is when they fill that application, and the first thing they see on that application is that box. Do you have a criminal history? And when they mark that box, you can bet where that application's going, right in the round file. So they'll never have an opportunity to even have an interview. So I was quite proud of that legislation. One of the
and what you're saying, Representative, so it's clear to the viewing audience out there, this, by banning the box, it allows the opportunity, if you appear to be on paper a good candidate, then you may possibly get an interview. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It'll allow you to have that first interview. And even this doesn't preclude the employer from doing a background check. Certain occupations you need a background check, and certain occupations this is excluded, but it gives you an opportunity to get your foot in the door.
Yes,
and
that's the point.
And in a lot of instances, when a person gets his foot in the door, he can persuade that employer that he's a good applicant and he could do the job. And I'm, like I said, I was quite proud of that legislation. I plan on going even further this session after my reelection. One of the other things I was working on, and one of the things I mentioned the last time I was on TV, was my concern with our solitary confinement that we have in the prison. As you know, I'm chairman of the Corrections Committee, and I have an opportunity to visit these facilities on certain occasions. And I think we are overusing the solitary confinement in the prisons. Matter of fact, after my last appearance on TV, I received a letter from a mother who was concerned about her son. And I think you may even call me about her. I won't mention his name, but he's been in solitary confinement for more than 20 years.
Wow.
20 years. And only has an opportunity to come out 1 hour a day for exercise. Now, he had altercations earlier, had a problem with the correction officers, but I think this is a little bit overboard. And so I like to have pass legislation in the next session that would regulate solitary confinement, make it more humane. Right now, I think that if the authorities have a beef against a person, or they just don't like that person, they can put them in solitary confinement indefinitely. So I want to address that issue. Another thing I want to address is my concern with the drug epidemic we have.
Yes.
I know that's an issue that you deal with almost on a daily basis. And we have a heroin epidemic in the country. And we also have it here in Delaware. And we need facilities and treatment centers where we can address this epidemic we have and treat it as an illness and as a disease rather than a criminal activity. I know the Kingcenter, matter of fact, on certain occasions I've called you, you've called me, and we work together as a team to address some of those issues. And like I said, it's a real epidemic. I was at a seminar a couple of weeks ago and had a lady who lost her daughter because of drugs. And she was given some statistics. She said we've had at least 19 people die of overdose since January in Newcastle County.
Sad.
And
very sad.
Right after that seminar, we had another young man who died of an overdose right near my community, because it's a big issue, and we need to get our hands around it. And I appreciate the work that you're doing with the Kingcenter to help address that issue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Representative Gerald Brady, who's with us as well, young man I met going back a little bit in city politics and city government. And he's been around a bit, and we come in contact every once in a while as we're attempting to address issues. And I'd like for Representative Brady to come in his own way and kind of talk about your experience in the Delaware General Assembly, some important pieces of legislation you supported and were introduced and passed. And equally as important, Representative Brady, if you're blessed to be reelected, what are some of the things you'd like to get done?
Thank you. And may I call you Representative Holloway?
Yes, you can if you like.
I feel much more comfortable in doing so, and rightfully
Thank
so,
you.
as you did serve, and we appreciate that. But anyway, Representative, you have mentioned a little bit of my background in that I did serve as a Wilmington City Councilman from 1996 to 2006, and then have served in the General Assembly since 2006. And why that is important in the fact that my role as a council member not only helped me better understand the urban environment, but more importantly, the issues that involve those residents on a daily basis, but the ability to have established credible relationships with my colleagues. Representative Bolden was also a Wilmington City Council member, and in my time we served together. Also, Representative Charles Potter served as a council member, and that enabled us as individuals, but also as collectively as a Wilmington delegation, that once we were part of the overall caucus in Dover, in this case the Democratic caucus, and fortunately for the last several years in the majority, thanks to good senior leadership from people like Representative Johnson,
Yes.
who have been there for a while. So we were able to benefit from that wealth of knowledge, but more importantly, the experience. And as Representative Johnson did state, he and I are seated physically next to one another on the floor of the General Assembly, and there's a benefit to that. We converse on a regular basis, momentarily on some issues, as quick as the roll call themselves. If, for example, I have a last-minute question, rather than, as they do in the NFL, call timeout, you don't have that time, I'll defer to JJ for some quick reference, situational recommendations, and he's always there for me, and it's been a benefit mutually, both pro and con. And that's something that the average voter, in this case the average electorate or citizen, doesn't see on or off the camera, but it certainly is noted when a final decision, an important decision has to be made. Some of the individual things that I have done in my I stand corrected, my 8 years, were tailored more specifically towards the individual person, the individual citizen, yet more importantly, the impact of that legislation on the individual as they relate to a total population as a whole. I had sponsored initially a piece of legislation that enabled mandated medical coverage for hearing aids for individuals from birth to age 26. And why was that significant? In that it not only enabled that person to become a more active and productive part of our society, but in the end, and I was able to prove this even in years of deficit, I was able to draw the direct correlation between the benefit of an individual who can learn while they have the ability to audiologically receive information. There's a benefit in the end to our overall educational system, in that they won't need special, specific programs tailored to the individual who has that handicap. They've already been able to, were granted the ability to overcome that.
Well, what do you see going back if you're blessed to be reelected? What are some of the things you'd like to work on, try to get done?
To continue working with my colleagues such as JJ on the most important thing of all, of course, here in the state of Delaware, is jobs. I was the prime co-sponsor along with Senator Marshall on the upgrade of the minimum wage, currently up to $8.25, and would like to project, and there was a bill introduced this year that would increase that minimum wage to the national recommendation of $10.10. Not only does that make the individual employee that much more productive, but it's clear that that revenue that is generated by that individual is likely, if not 100% of the time, to go directly back into the local economy. So that's the mutual benefit. You have an individual that has essentially pride in their workmanship, yet at the same time, the overall population in the local economy appreciates that benefit of that being spent locally. And it also helps it's fortify one of the most important things of all societies, and that's our family structure.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when someone is able to provide for their youngsters, if not others, in many cases, a mother or father who may be under the care of an individual, it enables them to have the ability to conduct more expenditures as a household. And they're the kind of things, as I said, that are a benefit not just to the individual, but to we as a state. And they're the kind of things that JJ, as he mentioned a moment ago, rather than create impediments for the individual who's trying to seek employment, as opposed to being unemployed, things such as ban the box help remove some of those impediments, yet more importantly, enable that person to have a little bit of pride in themselves, and ultimately the benefit is
and give them an opportunity to present themselves. And
exactly.
may go over very well, and as a result of that, an employer may say, I'm going to give you a shot. Be honest. You say you've had an infraction with the law, but you paid that to society. I'm going to give you a shot, and that's what this does, and that is so very important.
If I may, Representative,
go ahead.
I wanted to compliment you before we ran out of time. I wanted to compliment you and accentuate the fact that we have a mutual relationship in your role with the Housing Authority. I have many units in the 4th Representative District that fall under your jurisdiction, and you have been impeccable with your response to, one, the first call, but more importantly, the benefit of having action taken in that regard. And I think there's a couple of high rises that you and I have conversed, and you have been a significant participant in resolving those matters. So I thank you.
Thank you very much. And I do have a meeting over at the Lincoln Tower on Wednesday at 6:30. I'll be coming over. I'll talk more about that tonight from 9 to 10. And again, I got some very special guests, 9 to 10. Please don't miss it. Put the word around. Community Crossfire is going to be on fire tonight from 9 to 10. I want to thank my guests, my good friends, the elected officials that have joined me here as we move to the close of the program. And again, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've been enlightened. And they're going to be coming back, and we're going to be showing this over again on some of my time slots, and that's why I wanted them all here today. So until tonight at 9 o'clock, when Community Crossfire is going to be on fire and smoking. As Al Plant would tell you, get your ice cream and get comfortable. Till tonight, 9 o'clock. God bless.
Listen. Listen. If he has to reach Jesus, pick you up. If he has to reach.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jay Caldwell speaking, and I'm here to remind you of the big anniversary celebration of the Gospel Ambassadors. Sunday, November